Democrats have actually started to defend Trump on the impeachment articles that just got filed against him, as we talked about a little bit on the show last week. An Indian congressman, his name is Shri, filed fraudulent impeachment articles essentially about Donald Trump. Nothing about them is legit at all. And all the Democrats were on board. But upon finding out what was actually in them, some Democrats decided they did not want to be a part of them after all. And this is according to The Hill. This is really important. They say these are the reps that did it. Reps Kwesi Mfume, that's from Minnesota, Robin Kelly, and Jerry Nadler had signed on as co-sponsors of Rep. Shri Thanadar's impeachment resolution, which includes 7 articles of impeachment. But Tuesday afternoon, they went to the House floor and asked for their names to be taken off the legislation. The House clerk granted their request. And they say the reason right here. This is according to The Hill again. Spokespeople for Kelly and Mfume said the lawmakers initially signed on to the effort because they assumed it had been reviewed by leadership. When they learned it was not, they asked for their names to be removed. So basically, guys, they just went along with it at first because they thought it was legit. They were like, yeah, we don't like Trump. But then they saw the articles and they were like, oh, crap. There's nothing in this, and we don't want to be tied to this at all. And here's what's really fascinating about this. I did some research. These specific congressmen, if you look at them, they're from New York, they're from Maryland, and Illinois. Again, incredibly liberal places. And if you look at their actual districts, they are incredibly liberal. These are not the purple districts in those states. One of those people, for instance, won their election by 85%. So these are like the most blue of the most blue. And they did not want to be part of the articles of impeachment. And it just shows how truly bad they are. Because if they were like a normal person, if they were a normal purple congressman, they have to buddy up with Trump a little bit, right? Because you need MAGA voters and the Democrat voters. You have to be in the middle a little bit. So it'd make a lot of sense for them to do something like this. But they're not like that. They don't need any Trump voters in order to win. They just know that the articles of impeachment are so famously bad that they don't want to be anywhere near them. They do not want history to show that they were a part of them. And this is something I predicted when I was talking about the articles of impeachment last week. So this is the big question. What are in these awful articles of impeachment? These are the 7. I'm going to break them down for you. We're going to talk about each one, talk about why they're so ridiculous. So without further ado, the first one is this. It says obstruction of justice and abuse of executive power, including denial of due process, unlawful deportations, defiance of court orders, and misuse of the Department of Justice. The problem with this is this would generally be a civil offense. This is in relation to Abrego Garcia, right? The person Trump deported could sue the administration. Abrego Garcia could theoretically do that. But this isn't high crimes and misdemeanors like Hamilton wrote about in the Federalist Papers. That's what you need in order to impeach someone. High crimes, misdemeanors, treasonous behavior, bribery, things like that. And Shri says in this that he disobeyed the Supreme Court. That is false. That is not what Donald Trump did. The Supreme Court did not say that he could not deport Abrego Garcia, which is what Shri is saying in this. What they decided is that they ruled that a district court below them had jurisdiction on deciding the case in general. So again, already straight up lying in the first article, but it gets even more ridiculous. The second one says usurpation of appropriations power for dismantling congressionally established agencies and impounding federal funds. So this is, of course, referring to DOGE. And I have a hard time believing that this constitutes a high crime or misdemeanor. He's saying that because DOGE is trying to cut abuse and fraud, that's somehow a high crime against the United States. What's really crazy about this is how open Democrats are about trying to protect the deep state, because that's essentially what Shri is doing here, is saying, awful what DOGE is doing. They're going after the bureaucrats. And again, it's particularly stunning when we talk about elections because people overwhelmingly support DOGE as well. Shri thinks one of the biggest reasons a president for some reason should be impeached is for trying to dismantle unconstitutional bureaucracies and limit the scope of government. That is what he says in that. So it's very clear that the other Democrats don't want to be anywhere near that. I don't blame them. The third one, abuse of trade powers and international aggression, including imposing economically damaging tariffs and threatening military invasion against sovereign nations. Here's the deal. This one is the most legit in terms of something he can't do that's unconstitutional. The tariffs are unconstitutional. I know a lot of people disagree with that. That's just a hard truth. Congress has to do that. Only Congress can levy tariffs. That's very clear. But again, that's not a high crime and misdemeanor. That is something that the Supreme Court would simply decide. They would, in essence, sue the Trump administration, and then the Trump administration would be forced to recede the tariffs, and then Congress could then decide. It's not impeachable. So good luck with that one. There's just no evidence Trump is jailing people for, trying to. I'm just trying to think of an example of how the tariffs would even be a crime in the first place. Trump is just not doing that. The fourth one says violation of First Amendment rights through retaliatory actions against critics, media, and attorneys exercising constitutionally protected speech. Again, good luck. Like Trump says there's fake news. That's not him trying to take away their First Amendment rights. There's no evidence Trump is jailing people for saying something he doesn't like. He's never done that. And ironically, this is what's so interesting about that impeachment article, is that Sri doesn't like what Trump is saying about the media, so he wants Trump to be censored through impeachment. Seems a little hypocritical. It's ironic. He's saying that Trump is violating the First Amendment while Sri is trying to do that exact thing. Number 5, creation of an unlawful office by establishing Doge and unlawfully empowering Elon Musk. Again, not impeachable. There's just nothing there. It's not a high crime misdemeanor. Again, you can sue him if you want, I guess. I don't think that would go anywhere, but it's not impeachable. Number 6, bribery and corruption involving dismissing criminal cases, soliciting foreign emoluments, and extortionate settlements for personal and political gain. This one is the only one in the whole thing that would be impeachable. Because specifically, I think it's Federalist Paper 62 or something like that, is where Hamilton talks about how you can impeach someone. That bribery is one of them. Bribery and corruption is one that's impeachable. The problem is that Sri doesn't provide any evidence for it. He just says it, which isn't enough to impeach someone. Finally, number 7 is tyrannical overreach, seeking to consolidate unchecked power, erode civil liberties, and defy constitutional limits on presidential authority. And again, absurd to me. This one is absurd and frankly offensive because Trump, his whole shtick is he's trying to do the exact opposite of what Sri just said. The reason we have these 3-letter agencies is because people in Congress like Sri don't want to be held accountable. Because what they did is they made bureaucracies to handle the jobs that they were originally supposed to handle, and they didn't want them because it made them more accountable. If they did something bad, they wouldn't get elected. And so they said, let's just give it to the bureaucrats that never get elected. Then we don't have to deal with it. We can just stay in power forever. And again, as I've said, it's the complete opposite of what Donald Trump is actually doing here. They're saying it's tyrannical overreach. Trump is actually trying to limit the scope of government. Sri knows that. He just doesn't want to be held accountable. So essentially, as I've said, these impeachment articles, they're dead in the water. Even Democrats, even if they happen to control the House, this would not pass. And I think that those 3 Democrats not wanting to be part of the articles of impeachment are a fantastic evidence of that. Fortunately, though, Democrats don't hold the House right now, and that's probably going to remain the case if they focus on wastes of time like this. Hey guys, I'm excited to announce that I am rolling out my new Substack right now. If you didn't know, Substack is basically a newsletter that allows me to send out the daily news to you guys as well as my opinion and political commentary on top of it. It just comes to your email. It's completely free to subscribe. You can cancel anytime. And in addition to the news and commentary stuff, I'll also be showing all my subscribers kind of the behind the scenes inner workings of the show, as well as having direct chat with you guys so we can bounce political ideas off each other and interact directly. So you can join right now, guys, with the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like the video and subscribe so other great patriots like yourself can see it in the YouTube overlords. Don't try to hide it. And as always, you can check out another video right here.